The morning light on Verbania Prime painted the sky in soft purple and gold colors. Elder Kethva stood on the highest branch of the great tree, watching the peaceful valley below. His skin glowed with a calm blue light that showed his happy mood. The Zelani people moved slowly through their gardens, tending to plants that seemed to grow just by their gentle touch. For 10,000 years, the Zelani had lived this way. They grew their food, created beautiful art, and talked about the meaning of life. They never fought wars or built weapons. Their world gave them everything they needed, and they gave back their love and care. Kethva felt a strange feeling in the air. Something was coming from the stars. He had never felt anything like it before. The feeling was not bad, but it was different. Very different. Far above the purple clouds, the human ship U-Isa Frontier moved closer to the planet. Commander Jake Harrison stood on the bridge, looking at the green and blue world through the big window. After 2 years in space, any planet looked beautiful. But this one was special. It had clean air, fresh water, and no signs of war or pollution. "Sir, we're picking up some kind of signals from the surface," said Lieutenant Kate Foster. She was young but smart, and Jake trusted her work. "They're not like anything we've seen before." "Almost like the planet itself is talking." Jake nodded. Behind him, 5,000 people waited in sleeping pods, dreaming of a new home. Earth was dying slowly, and these people had given up everything for a chance at a better life. This planet had to work. It had to. Dr. Lisa Morgan entered the bridge carrying her equipment. She was the team's expert on alien life, though she had never actually met any aliens before. No human had. "Commander, I'm reading life signs everywhere down there. Not just animals and plants, but something that might be intelligent." "Intelligent how?" Jake asked. "I'm not sure yet. The signals are organized, like they're talking to each other, but they're spread across the whole planet. It's like the entire world is one big conversation." Jake felt excited and worried at the same time. Intelligent aliens could be friends or enemies. There was no way to know until they met. 3 hours later, the first shuttle landed in a clearing near a Zelani village. Jake stepped out first, followed by Dr. Morgan and 6 soldiers. The air smelled like flowers and rain. Everything was so green and alive that it almost hurt to look at after years in the metal ship. The Zelani came to meet them slowly. They were tall and thin, with skin that changed colors like a slow rainbow. Their leader was obviously the old one in front. His skin showed deep purple, mixed with gold, and his eyes were large and kind. "I am Elder Kethva," the alien said in perfect English. Dr. Morgan's mouth fell open in surprise. "You speak our language?" she asked. "We learned it from your signals," Kethva replied. "Your ship has been talking to itself for many days. We listened and learned. We welcome you to our world." Jake stepped forward. "I'm Commander Jake Harrison. We come in peace. Our world is sick, and we need a new home. We hope we can share your beautiful planet." Kethva's skin shifted to warm yellow colors. Sharing is the way of life. "Come, see how we live." The Zelani village was like nothing the humans had ever seen. The houses were grown, not built. Trees bent and shaped themselves into homes. Vines carried water like pipes. Flowers glowed at night to give light. Everything was alive and working together. "How do you do this?" Dr. Morgan asked, touching a wall that felt warm and alive. "We ask, and the plants listen," said a young Zelani named Lyra. Her skin sparkled with silver dots when she was happy. "We have been friends with this world for a very long time. We take care of it, and it takes care of us." The humans spent 3 days learning about Zelani life. They had no money, no police, no armies. When they disagreed about something, they would sit in a circle, and talk until everyone felt good about the answer. Their food grew wild, but in organized patterns. Their art was made from living things that kept changing and growing. "It's perfect," Dr. Morgan told Jake on their third night. "They've solved every problem that humans struggle with. No war, no hunger, no pollution." But Jake was thinking about the 5,000 people on his ship. They would need space to build cities, farms, and factories. They would need to dig mines and cut down forests. The Zelani way of life was beautiful, but humans needed different things to survive. On the fourth day, Jake made his request. "Elder Kethva, we would like to bring our people down and start building our homes. We promise to be careful with your world." Kethva's skin showed worried colors, dark blue mixed with orange. "How many of your people?" 5,000 to start. Maybe more later if other ships come." The elder was quiet for a long time. Around him, other Zelani gathered, their skin color shifting as they talked without words. Jake realized they were having a conversation that humans couldn't hear or understand. "We will help you," Kethva finally said. "But you must promise to listen to the world as we do. This planet is not just dirt and rocks. It is alive, and it can be hurt." Jake promised, but he wasn't sure what that really meant. How could dirt and rocks be alive? The next week, human shuttles began landing all over the valley. People came down from the ship carrying tools, machines, and weapons. They started cutting trees to build houses and digging holes to plant crops. The noise of human machines filled the quiet valley. The Zelani watched with growing worry. Their skin colors became darker and more mixed up. They had never seen anything like human tools before. The humans could cut down in 1 hour what took nature years to grow. "They are hurting the world," Lyra told Kethva. Her skin was dark red. "With fear. They don't understand yet," the elder replied. "We must teach them." But teaching would be harder than anyone thought. Humans and Zelani saw the world in completely different ways. To humans, trees were wood for building. To Zelani, every tree was a friend they had known for years. The first real problem came when Captain Ben Rodriguez decided the humans needed a fence around their settlement. "For protection," he told Jake. "We don't know if there are dangerous animals out there." The fence cut through a grove of trees that the Zelani used for important ceremonies. When Kethva asked the humans to move the fence, Rodriguez refused. "We need security. The trees can grow somewhere else." That night, for the first time in thousands of years, the Zelani held a war council. Their skin colors flashed angry reds and dark purples as they talked about these strange visitors who seemed to think they owned whatever they touched. The peaceful days were ending, though no one knew it yet. In space, more human ships were already on their way. And on Verdania Prime, two very different ways of life were about to crash into each other like stars colliding in the night. The fence stood like a metal scar across the sacred grove. Elder Kethva placed his hand on one of the cut trees, feeling its pain through his fingertips. His skin turned deep black with grief. The tree had been 300 years old, and now it lay in pieces on the ground. "They don't understand," he whispered to Lyra. "They see only dead wood where we see living friends." Captain Ben Rodriguez walked the fence line with his soldiers every morning. He carried a rifle on his shoulder and watched the forest with suspicious eyes. The Zelani moved differently now. They gathered in larger groups, and their skin colors flashed in patterns he had never seen before. "Something's changed with them," he told Commander Jake Harrison. "They're planning something." "I can feel it." Jake looked tired. Running a colony was harder than flying a spaceship. Every day brought new problems. People needed more food, more space, more safety. The Zelani were helpful, but they asked too many questions about every human decision. "Maybe we should have more talks with them," Jake said. Dr. Morgan thinks we can work things out. Ben shook his head. You can't talk to every alien we meet, sir. Sometimes you have to show strength first. Dr. Lisa Morgan spent her days studying the Zelani, trying to understand how they made plants grow and animals obey. She watched Lyra call fish out of a stream just by humming softly. She saw old Zelani make flowers bloom with a touch of their glowing fingers. It's not magic, she told Jake. It's some kind of biological connection. They can actually talk to living things through electrical signals or pheromones. Maybe both. Is it dangerous? Jake asked. Lisa thought about the question. I don't think they mean to be dangerous. But Jake, this whole planet responds to them. If they wanted to hurt us, they might not need weapons the way we understand weapons. That same day, human miners found something interesting in the hills. The rocks contained rare metals that could power their machines for years. Jake approved the mining operation immediately. They needed those metals to build more equipment and maybe even contact Earth. The mining machines arrived the next morning. They were loud, dirty things that bit into the earth with metal teeth. Black smoke poured from their engines as they dug deeper and deeper into the hillside. The Zelani felt the mining through the ground. Every cut into the rock sent pain through their connection to the planet. Children started crying for reasons they couldn't explain. Adults found it hard to make. Plants grow. The whole planet seemed to be getting sick. Mordon was the youngest Zelani to ever become a war leader, though the Zelani had not needed war leaders for thousands of years. His skin was darker than other Zelani, and it could flash bright red when he was angry. Now it stayed red most of the time. The metal diggers are killing the Earth's blood, he told the gathering. We asked them to stop. They said no. We asked them to dig somewhere else. They said no. What do we do when asking doesn't work? Elder Kethva tried to keep peace. We have always found a way to solve problems without fighting. Because we never met anyone who wouldn't listen, Mordon replied. These humans take what they want, and don't care who gets hurt. The crisis came 3 days later. The human mining operation hit an underground water source that the Zelani had been protecting for generations. The water was special. It carried the electrical signals that helped Zelani communicate across long distances. When the humans contaminated it with mining chemicals, the effect was immediate. Zelani all across the planet suddenly couldn't hear each other's thoughts. Families lost contact with relatives in distant villages. The great network that had connected their people for thousands of years went quiet. Lyra was the first to discover what the humans had done. She ran to their settlement with tears streaming down her face, her skin flashing desperate colors. You broke the water, she cried to Jake. The thinking water. Now we can't hear our families. Jake didn't understand what she meant, but he could see her pain. We can fix the water. We have ways to clean it. You don't understand, Lyra said. This water took 1,000 years to become what it was. Your chemicals killed something that can never come back. Dr. Morgan tested the water and found that Lyra was right. The mining operation had released acids that destroyed microscopic organisms in the water. These tiny creatures had been carrying electrical signals between Zelani communities. Without them, the planet-wide communication network was dead. We have to shut down the mining, she told Jake. We can't do that, Jake replied. We need those metals to survive. Maybe the Zelani can adapt to a different way of communicating. That night, something new happened on Verdania Prime. The machines in the human settlement started breaking down. First, the lights went out. Then, the water pumps stopped working. Finally, even the communication equipment went dead. Sergeant Amy Collins was on guard duty when she saw them. Vines were growing up the sides of buildings, but growing fast like time-lapse photography. Where the vines touched metal, the metal started to rust and crumble. "It's not natural," she reported to Ben Rodriguez. "Plants don't grow that fast, and they don't eat metal." Ben grabbed his rifle and ran outside. All around the settlement, the forest was moving. Trees were bending toward the human buildings. Flowers were opening and releasing clouds of glowing pollen. Even the grass seemed to be reaching up toward human feet. "It's an attack," Ben shouted. "They're using the whole planet as a weapon." Jake tried to call Elder Kethva on the radio, but the equipment was dead. He had to walk to the edge of the settlement and call out into the forest. "Kethva, we need to talk." The elder appeared from between the trees, but he looked different. His skin was no longer calm blue. Instead, it showed swirling patterns of red and orange that hurt to look at. "You killed the thinking water," Kethva said. "Now the planet is angry, and we cannot calm it down." "We can fix this," Jake said. "We can work together." "How do you fix 1,000 years of growth in one day?" Kethva asked. "How do you bring back life that is gone forever?" Behind the elder, more Zelani appeared. Their skin colors were wild and angry, flashing like warning lights. Some of them carried tools that Jake had never seen before, long sticks that glowed with the same light as their skin. "Are those weapons?" Jake asked. "They are tools for shaping life," Kethva replied. "We never needed to shape life for war before. You have taught us new needs." Dr. Morgan stepped forward. "There has to be another way. You're a peaceful people." Mordan emerged from the group of Zelani. His skin was now pure red, like fire. "We were peaceful because our world was peaceful. You brought war to our world, so now we must learn war." "We didn't mean to hurt anything," Jake said. "Meaning and doing are different things," Kethva replied sadly. "You meant no harm, but harm is here. The question now is what we do about it." The standoff continued through the night. Humans stayed inside their failing settlement, while the forest pressed closer from all sides. Plants that had been friendly days before now seemed threatening. Every shadow might hide a Zelani warrior dot. As dawn broke, Jake realized that everything had changed. The simple, peaceful aliens they had met were gone. In their place stood a people who had learned that sometimes talking wasn't enough. The Zelani were still connected to their world, but now that connection was preparing for war. Captain Rodriguez assembled his soldiers and checked their weapons. "Sir, we need to show them we're not afraid. A show of force might make them back down." Jake looked at the forest surrounding them. Somewhere out there, an entire species was learning to fight. He wondered if his people had just made the biggest mistake in human history. "Get everyone ready," he ordered. "But nobody shoots unless I give the order. Maybe we can still find a way to fix this." But deep down, Jake knew that some things, once broken, could never be repaired. The thinking water was dead, and with it, any hope of easy peace between two very different ways of life. The first battle began at sunrise. Colonel Ray Thompson led 50 human soldiers into the forest, hoping to find the Zelani leaders and force them to negotiate. He had fought wars on Earth, but nothing had prepared him for what he found in the alien woods. The trees themselves fought back. Branches reached down like giant hands, trying to grab human weapons. Roots burst from the ground to trip running soldiers. Thick vines shot out like ropes, wrapping around arms and legs. The forest had become a living enemy. "Fall back," Thompson shouted as his men struggled against the attacking plants. "Regroup at the clearing." But there was no safe clearing anymore. Everywhere the humans stepped, the ground became soft and muddy. Flowers sprayed burning sap that ate through their uniforms. Even the air seemed wrong, thick with pollen that made it hard to breathe. Private Danny Wells fired his rifle at a tree that was bending toward him. The bullets hit the bark, but didn't seem to hurt it. The tree kept coming, its branches reaching for his weapon. "The guns don't work," he yelled. "How do you kill a forest?" Back at the human settlement, Commander Jake Harrison watched his soldiers retreat in confusion and fear. His high-tech weapons were useless against an enemy made of living wood and angry flowers. "We need a new plan," he told Captain Ben Rodriguez. "Normal fighting won't work here." Ben had been thinking the same thing. "Sir, we need to change the rules. If they want to use nature against us, we have to use our tools against nature." Dr. Lisa Morgan heard this conversation and felt sick. "You're talking about destroying the ecosystem. That will kill everything on this planet. Better than letting everything on this planet kill us." And replied Jake made the hardest decision of his life. Do it, but try to keep the damage small. Lieutenant Kate Foster had studied chemistry before joining the military. She knew how to make things that would kill plants quickly. Working through the night, she mixed chemicals that would poison the ground and stop anything from growing. "This stuff is dangerous," she warned Jake. "Once we use it, nothing will grow in that area for years. How long do we need to win this war?" Jake asked. Kate thought about it. "If we can break their connection to the plants, maybe a few days." The next morning, human aircraft flew over the forest, dropping the poison chemicals. Where the chemicals fell, trees began to turn brown and die. Flowers wilted and fell to pieces. Even the grass turned black and crumbled away. The effect on the Zelani was immediate and horrible. They felt every plant death like a physical blow. Some fell to the ground screaming. Others just stood still, their skin turning gray and lifeless. Elder Kethva collapsed when the first tree died. The pain of losing so many plant friends at once was more than his old heart could handle. Younger Zelani tried to help him, but they were suffering too. "They are killing the world," Lyra whispered, her skin now pale and flickering weakly. "How can anyone kill a whole world?" Morgan felt the plant deaths differently than the others. Instead of pain, he felt rage. Pure, burning anger that turned his skin bright white with fury. "They want to fight dirty?" he said. "Then we fight dirty too." The Zelani had never used their abilities to hurt other living things. But watching their world die taught them new lessons about survival. If humans could poison plants, then plants could poison humans. That night, the human settlement became a place of nightmares. The water tasted strange and made people sick. The air filled with spores that caused fever and hallucinations. Even the ground seemed to burn the feet of anyone who walked on it. Sergeant Amy Collins was the first to understand what was happening. She had been studying the Zelani's connection to their world, trying to find weaknesses the humans could use. "They're not just talking to plants," she reported to Jake. "They're reprogramming them, making them produce toxins and diseases they've never made before. Can we stop it?" Jake asked. Amy looked at the readings on her instruments. "Only by killing everything for miles around. And I mean everything. No plants, no animals, no insects. Nothing." Jake stared out at the dying forest. His chemical weapons had created a circle of dead ground around the human settlement. But beyond that circle, angry plants still waited. The Zelani were using the living world like a giant weapon, and the humans were using death as their shield. Dr. Morgan found Jake standing alone near the dead zone. "This isn't what we wanted," she said. "We came here to find a new home, not to destroy one." "Sometimes you don't get what you want," Jake replied. "Sometimes you just get what you need to survive." "But at what cost?" Morgan asked. "Look around us, Jake. We're turning paradise into hell." The war continued for 5 more days. Each day, the humans had to expand their dead zone to stay safe. Each day, more of Verdania Prime's beautiful forests became poisoned wasteland. The Zelani grew weaker as their connection to the planet was slowly cut away. But the humans were suffering too. The constant fighting and the poison in the air made everyone sick. Food was running low because nothing would grow in the dead ground. The settlement's equipment kept breaking down from the chemical damage. On the 6th day, Lieutenant Kate Foster made a discovery that changed everything. While studying the Zilani's biological network, she found its center, a massive tree deep in the forest that connected all the other plants on the planet. "It's like a central computer made of wood," she explained to Jake. "If we can destroy that tree, we can break their connection to everything else." "How big is this tree?" Jake asked. "Big enough to be seen from space. It's probably thousands of years old. The Zilani have been using it as their main communication hub for their entire civilization." Jake realized what this meant. Destroying. The central tree wouldn't just win the war. It would destroy the Zilani's way of life forever. They would become like humans, cut off from the natural world, forced to live by technology instead of biology. "Sir," Ben Rodriguez said, "this could end the fighting in one day. No more poison, no more plant attacks, just victory." Dr. Morgan grabbed Jake's arm. "You can't do this. It would be like destroying their internet, their telephone system, and their religion all at once. It would break them as a people." Jake looked at his tired, sick colonists. Benny looked at the expanding circle of dead ground around their settlement. Finally, he looked at the reports of more human ships on their way to Verdania Prime. "Prepare the explosives," he ordered. "We're going to cut down the biggest tree in the galaxy." That night, as human bombers prepared for their mission, Elder Kethva sensed what was coming. Through his fading connection to the great tree, he felt the approaching death of everything his people had ever known. "They mean to kill the heart of our world," he told the gathered Zilani. "If they succeed, we will become like them, alone in a silent universe." Mordon's skin blazed with desperate light. "Then we stop them, whatever it takes." But both leaders knew it was too late. The humans had learned the secret of total war. If you cannot defeat your enemy, you destroy the world that makes them strong. Tomorrow, one way of life would end forever, and another would claim victory over the ashes. The last night of the old Verdania Prime was filled with the sound of human machines and the dying songs of ancient trees. Neither side slept, knowing that dawn would bring the final battle for the soul of a world. The great tree stood in the center of a valley that glowed with soft light. It was bigger than any building humans had ever made, its roots spreading for miles underground and its branches reaching toward the clouds. The tree's bark pulsed with gentle colors, and thousands of Zilani lived in homes grown from its living wood. Major Steve Parker led the bombing mission in 3 heavy aircraft loaded with enough explosives to level the mountain. As they flew over the treetop city, he could see Zilani families looking up at them with their large, sad eyes. "Target confirmed," he reported to Commander Jake Harrison. "Beginning attack run." Below, Elder Kethva stood on the highest branch of the great tree. His skin had turned completely white, showing that he was ready to die. Around him, other Zilani elders held hands and sang the old songs one last time. "The children," Lyra said, her voice shaking. "At least save the children. There is nowhere to run," Kethva replied. "When the heart dies, the whole body dies with it." The first bombs fell at dawn. The explosions shook the ground for miles in every direction. Ancient branches that had grown for thousands of years were torn apart in seconds. The tree's living light flickered and began to fade, but the great tree was stronger than the humans had expected. Its roots went so deep that they touched the planet's core. Its wood was harder than steel and filled with the life force of an entire world. The first attack damaged it, but did not kill it. Mordon felt the tree's pain like fire in his blood. With the last of his strength, he called out to every living plant on Verdania Prime. This was the final battle, and every flower, every blade of grass, every tiny seed would join the fight. The response was immediate and terrifying. From all across the planet, plants began moving toward the human settlement. Trees pulled their roots from the ground and walked like slow giants. Vines grew miles long and slithered across the landscape like green snakes. Even mushrooms released clouds of deadly spores that could kill anything that breathed them. Major Parker's aircraft were still dropping bombs when the first walking trees reached them. Branches stretched up into the sky, grabbing at the flying machines like giant hands. One plane went down when a tree caught its wing. Another crashed when flowers shot thorns through its engines. Back at the human settlement, Captain Ben Rodriguez watched the approaching plant army with growing fear. "Sir, we need to evacuate. The whole planet is coming for us." But Jake Harrison had made his choice. No retreat. "We finish this now, or we all die trying." The humans had one advantage left. While the Zalani were connected to all living things, they were also limited by what living things could do. But humans had learned to make tools that could do impossible things. They had fire that burned hotter than any sun, chemicals that could dissolve mountains, and machines that never got tired or afraid. Lieutenant Kate Foster had been preparing for this moment. She had created a new kind of poison, one that would spread through the underground root network and kill every connected plant on the planet. "This is our last chance," she told Jake. "But if we use this, nothing will ever grow here again. The planet will be dead rock forever." Jake looked at the approaching forest army. Giant trees were already at the edge of their dead zone, and behind them came every plant that could move. In the sky, the remaining human aircraft were fighting, a losing battle against flying creatures controlled by Zalani minds. "Do it," Jake ordered. Kate activated the machines that would inject the final poison into the ground. The chemicals spread through the root network faster than lightning, reaching every corner of the planet in minutes. The effect was immediate and horrible. Every plant on Verdania Prime began to die at the same time. The walking trees stopped moving and fell over. The giant flowers closed forever. Even the grass turned black and crumbled away. The Zalani felt it all. Every death was like losing a family member. Those who were closely connected to the great tree died instantly from the shock. Others lasted longer, but their skin grew pale and lifeless as their connection to the world was cut forever. Elder Kethva was among the last to die. As the great tree's light faded around him, he looked across the valley at the human settlement. He tried to understand how any species could choose to kill an entire world just to win a war. "They are so alone," he whispered to Lyra, who was dying beside him. "They live in a universe with no friends, so they make enemies of everyone they meet." Lyra's skin flickered one last time. Maybe that is why they are so afraid. When the great tree finally died, its light went out like a candle in the wind. The sound it made falling was heard across the entire planet, a deep, sad note that marked the end of 10,000 years of peace. Major Steve Parker landed his damaged aircraft near the dead tree. The silence was complete now. No birds sang, no leaves rustled in the wind, no insects buzzed in the air. Verdania Prime had become a world of stone and dust. Among the roots of the great tree, he found the survivors. A few hundred Zalani had lived through the death of their world, but they were changed. Their skin no longer glowed with colors. Their eyes were dull and empty. They moved slowly, like people walking in their sleep. "We won," Parker reported to Jake. "The planet is ours," but victory felt strange. The humans had come to Verdania Prime because it was beautiful and alive. Now they owned a dead rock floating in space. The air was still breathable, and the water was still clean, but everything that had made the planet special was gone. Dr. Morgan found Jake standing in the ruins of the Zalani city. Was it worth it? She asked. Jake looked at the dead great tree and the lifeless Zilani survivors. We're alive. Our people have a home. I guess that has to be enough. 6 months. Later, Governor Jake Harrison sat in his office in New Boston, the first human city on Verdania Prime. Through his window, he could see farms and factories where forests used to grow. The colonists were healthy and safe, and more ships from Earth arrived every month. The surviving Zilani worked in human fields and factories. They were good workers because they never complained or caused trouble. But they never spoke unless spoken to, and their eyes always looked empty, like they were remembering something beautiful that was gone forever. A message arrived that morning from Earth. Another colony ship was coming, carrying 10,000 more people looking for a new home. They had heard that Verdania Prime was perfect for humans, safe, peaceful, and ready for development. Jake looked at the message and then at the gray sky outside his window. Since the plants died, the weather had become unpredictable. Storms were stronger and came without warning. The seasons were getting mixed up. The planet was still alive, but it was sick in ways that might never heal. He thought about the day they first met Elder Kethva, when the old alien had welcomed them with open arms and offered to share his world. Jake wondered what would have happened if they had found a way to truly share instead of simply taking. But those thoughts were useless now. The humans had won their new home, and that was what mattered. In the distance, construction crews were building landing pads for the next wave of colonists. Human civilization was spreading across Verdonia Prime like a slow flood, covering up all traces of what came before. The aliens had lived simple until armed humans landed. Now they lived not at all, except as quiet workers in a world that no longer knew their names. And humanity had learned once again that survival was more important than friendship. Conquest was easier than cooperation, and some victories were so complete that they felt like defeats. Harrison filed the message from Earth and got back to work. There was a whole dead planet to manage, and more humans coming every day who would need homes built on the bones of an ancient peace.